Hey everyone, thanks for coming to the Twitter space today. I'm Xandra and I'm the community manager for Charmverse. Those of you not familiar, Charmverse is a Web3 community platform for managing members, coordinating tasks, facilitating decisions, and holding each other accountable. Members sign in with crypto wallets, they gain access via community tokens and NFTs, and it brings together onboarding, payment management, proposals, project trackers, and data repositories in one place. If you've not checked it out yet, please do so after this space. It is a fantastic platform, and we're really excited about what we're building over here. Listeners, guests, I encourage you to share the space. And today we're talking about DAOs, and there's all sorts of types of DAOs, investment DAOs, social DAOs, curation DAOs. But today we're talking about public good DAOs, such as Nouns, Gitcoin, and Purple. So we are joined by Chris Carella, Azeem Khan, and Joshua Fisher, all from Public Good DAOs, to help break down what it means to be a public good DAO, their respective missions, and the overall experience of being a part of a DAO. So, hey everyone, thanks for being here.
Hi.
Hello.
Fantastic to have you. Thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to dig into public good DAOs. So, I figure we'll start by explaining what a public good DAO is, and then we can go around and hear about each DAO specifically, the mission behind it, and your role there. So, Azeem, do you want to kick it off with a broad overview of what a public good DAO is, and then tell us about Gitcoin?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the definitions for exactly what a public good DAO is are going to end up varying a little bit. I'm curious what the other speakers end up saying, but I think it's partially because the idea of exactly what a public good is tends to vary quite a bit. And so from that perspective, public good DAO is just going to be one that is helping distribute public goods in the way that they see fit. Um, Honestly, that's like the simplest way I've ended up explaining it to most people. Like one of the big things about public goods, at least to me, has been a lot of times when people hear it, they think about the idea of like charity, because like clean water or access to libraries or roads are the ideas of public goods in the traditional world. Whereas in the Web3 world or in the software world, it's like open source software is a public good. And as we've gone into Web3, unbundling a lot of Web2 services that sold us privatized services that we see as not being public goods, it's going to be a really big, how do I put this? Big change in understanding for people to see what public goods are. And so search engines should be a public good, financial transactions should be a public good. And there's so many other examples like that that we've been accustomed to not seeing as such. And so public goods DAO is going to end up just being how different organizations, if you want to use as a parallel or an analogy, like as a DAO, is helping to distribute those services to people across the board. And then at Gitcoin, what we do and have been doing for years now is helping fund open source software, among other things, using grants with a novel funding mechanism called quadratic funding, which was invented by Vitalik, Glenn Whale, and forgetting the other author on the paper. But it's basically an anti-whale mechanism where you're able to help distribute capital in a way that the community sees fit, and that is done based on a matching pool being raised from wherever it is. But then the way that the capital is actually allocated is that the community votes with their dollars, and for each dollar, there's an additional X dollars that gets donated based on what the quadratic formula is for that specific matching pool. And so it's a way that the community gets to decide where they feel capital should go. And Gitcoin's been quite successful, if I might say so myself, in being able to do this. To date, we have helped distribute over $72 million, and we have helped spawn many of some of the most successful companies in Web3. In some capacity, we've been supportive of them. So Uniswap, Optimism, Yearn, Dune, Bankless, MakerDAO, Wallet Connect, Ethers.js. POAP, Tornado Cash, like so many of the amazing companies in this space were at some point Gitcoin grantees. And so that is what we do in the spirit of helping further foster the public good ecosystem in our own little way.
Fantastic. Thank you for that overview. And it makes me even that much more excited about this space because the way you're talking about public good, it really can span so many different industries. Maybe that's not the right word, but so many different projects can be made with a public good DAO. So let's move over to Chris. Tell us about Purple. Chris is the co-founder of Purple, and it was founded very recently. So, Chris, tell us about that, and any other points you want to mention about public good DAOs.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I think there's just a little bit of setup. But Purple is about 2 weeks old, and we're a Nomish DAO, which we can discuss what that means. But yeah, just like on the notion of public goods, it's often maybe a more technical definition is like a non-state sponsored or non-corporate owned infrastructure. And so I believe pretty passionately for a very long time now that social networks should be a public good. They shouldn't be owned by billionaires or public companies. They shouldn't have the incentive to suck up all of our information and build a business model on top of that. And so the social network itself should be a public good. And, we've seen a couple of attempts at decentralized social. And so this would sort of be a protocol, decentralized protocol where maybe you can do a microblog or you can do your a photograph or your TikTok video that would be stored in like a very decentralized public way. And there's a protocol called Farcaster. So the Farcaster protocol is a distributed social network that works really great. And it's the first one I've been really impressed about and really excited about. And there's a client on top of it, also an app called Farcaster. The Farcaster app runs on top of the Farcaster protocol. It's really great. The protocol being open means that anyone can build anything on top of it. And in the early days, Farcaster is about 5,000 people and growing weekly. But it has this developer vibe feeling like early Twitter when Twitter had APIs, and lots of people built creative stuff on top of Twitter. But Twitter, being a private company, then decided to shut off all of those APIs and in some cases killed cool creative projects, in some cases killed whole companies. And so what we're trying to do with Purple is raise a treasury to fund developers working on the Farcaster protocol who maybe don't necessarily have a commercial angle or a path to commercialization. And so these can be everything from art projects to open source projects. There's an open source search engine built on Farcaster. And so that's just sort of Purple's mission, is to fund the ecosystem surrounding Farcaster. And then if I was going to really zero in on the thing that we're incredibly excited about, it's funding developers to build cool stuff on top of Farcaster.
Cool. I'm excited to dig in more to see how it's going since you're only 2 weeks in, but we will get to that. And last but not least, Joshua, you're part of Nouns DAO. So tell us about the mission of this DAO and your role over there.
Sure. I think there's a simple definition on the website. Nouns are an experimental attempt to improve the formation of on-chain avatar communities. While such projects as CryptoPunks have attempted to bootstrap digital community and identity, Nouns attempt to bootstrap identity, community, governance, and a treasury that can be used by the community. I think that's like a pretty high-level view of what's happening. Essentially, Nouns has been auctioning one NFT a day since last year, and has accumulated a pretty large treasury. And so, in terms of public goods, I think it's been an interesting project to be a part of. The first proposal to the DAO was to fund 6 charities. And so, in my mind, I thought that was like a really interesting signal of what this group of people thought was important. And I joined Shark DAO. So I found out about Nouns, saw the first auction be really successful, and joined a group another DAO called Shark DAO that was a group of individuals pooling together to try to win Nouns. And we were successful with number 2 and number 5 and a few more after that. We have 6 total now. And one of the things that we did was a program called Free Glasses for Kids. And it was a project that just aligned perfectly with the meme of the Nouns glasses, the noggles. And it was something that was the number 12 proposal. So there's just been a history of doing things for public goods or for charities or like really just trying to put the power into the hands of individuals. And like, I think this technology kind of allows for the middleman to like be removed in some sense.
Yeah, when I was looking at it, that Glasses for Kids project, were you the person that proposed that project?
Yes. So I had a relationship with a 3D glasses manufacturing company and local opticians, and was able to just kind of like figure it all out and make it work. So we're expanding that program and looking to find additional partners to keep growing that idea. When not to go on too much of a tangent, but vision is just such an important part of learning in life. So anytime that you can help improve the vision, especially of like children, it just has a just great knock-on effects, I think.
Yeah, I really liked reading about that project, and people should go look at it. It's a really there's a little video on, I think it's on Nounish, but great video about the project and just heartwarming. So well done on that.
Thanks.
I would love to add one thing, which is Nouns maybe pioneered this sort of auction model for DAOs, or there's like a very Nounish way. I'm very Nounish, and I've realized now that I'm like too deep, and even people in crypto often don't know what I'm saying. But the Nouns kind of software, it auctions off one noun every 24 hours, and when you win that auction, you're now a member of the DAO, and for every one noun you hold, you get one vote in all of the governance votes. And there's a lot more to it. It's like all of that money goes into a shared treasury, which is like really a smart contract and not like your typical Gnosis multi-sig. And funds can only be released if enough people vote to release the funds. And some Nouners created that as like a generic software platform recently called Nouns.build is the URL. And it's out there and it's free to use, and there are no protocol fees. And Purple was built on top of that. And so Nouns itself as an infrastructure is a public good, because now lots of people can kind of build these DAOs that have recurring funding mechanisms, and those recurring funding systems, I think, are really great for all kinds of public goods and nonprofits, and anyone who's perpetually trying to raise money, and sometimes without even a commercial angle to it.
Cool. Yeah, it all kind of intertwines. So Azeem, I'm going to get back to you. And first, I want to say I actually just finished reading the piece you did with Dessential, and it was fantastic. So listeners, you should go check it out. Just finished it right before this interview started. But I'm curious, I think a lot of people are looking into DAOs. They don't know which one might be a right fit for them. How did you end up at Gitcoin?
I got to be really honest. I ended up here by mistake. Like, I would love to like tell anybody that like my journey in crypto as a whole has been nearly as intentional as it may look when I tell the story of it. But I had a Web3 backed crowdfunding platform that I raised money from VCs for last year called Pollinate, and got to launch like a token and built a product and launched a product and helped some people get funding. And the VCs were token dumping on me, and it just like was a year of immense burnout in every way, shape, and form. And so I ended up leaving in December from that project and took a couple months off where I was just doing consulting with various things in the NFT music space. I've got a background in the music industry. I was doing some stuff with like some other larger brands through friends of mine who owned agencies that had clients that needed help on Web3 related projects. And I had actually done Kernel, which is a spin-off from Gitcoin. And for anyone who's not familiar with Kernel, it's an 8-week cohort-based program similar to like an on deck where you can remotely be part of a learning environment for Web3. I've never seen something that's like so well structured in teaching people Web3. But I had done that program. I had heard about Gitcoin grants just as a whole and how some of the people in the cohort had applied for different grants or various grants during the round. And I'd also seen the founder, Scott, speak on some of the fireside chats that we had. And I was just like, yo, this guy is awesome. Like, I want to actually speak to him before I apply for a Gitcoin grant. Like, yeah, I'm interested in doing some stuff in impact DAOs and some stuff around like what Alchemix is doing with being able to borrow a certain percentage against money that's put up that's earning APY. So it's a self repaying loan or things like that. And in our conversation between Scott and I, it was just like, yo, Azeem, actually, like, would you be interested in joining the partnerships team? And at the time, I wasn't working on anything actively. And all my experiences with Gitcoin to that point had been honestly awesome. And so I was like, yeah, screw it, let's do it. And now, months later, I help lead all partnerships and fundraising for us. And so, like, totally was not by any means on purpose. I'd say the biggest thing that I would say, though, as a whole in success at anything is just like curiosity. And like, that's the thing that's always driven me. I got into this space in 2013 when I was writing about it for the Huffington Post and just like buying and selling crypto, and like Bitcoin cost $100, $200. I tried launching something called Kim Kardashian in 2014, and like, yeah, I got a ton of press for it, and then I got a cease
So
and
that's
desist.
fire.
Yeah, and so it's like, like I've just been experimenting with the space in a way that's just been like fun and screwing around. And I won't lie though, like at times I've been like, man, I've been in this space for so long and I am not crazy rich. But then this week was like a good reminder that a lot of the people who got crazy rich really quickly are all just scammers. So
You should totally launch a Nounish DAO and like do cool stuff. I like I think you would have some fun with it. You could go to Nouns Builder and they would like probably work with you to like create something really unique and special, and then you could launch it and do like the one a day or one a week or one a month. Like, I don't know.
Bro, I'm absolutely going to hit you because one of the reasons I wanted to speak to Nouns as a whole was I'm going to be running the Boston Marathon that's happening in 2023, which is the 10-year anniversary of the one that I ran in 2013 that had the bombings. And I wasn't able to finish it because of the attacks, but there's like a couple different angles where I've been exploring with some publicists about turning this into like a really big thing. And I found out the most money ever raised by a single runner for the American Liver Foundation, who I'm running with, is only $65,000. Not to say that's like nothing, but at Gitcoin, we raise millions of dollars a quarter. And I think it could be an excellent opportunity to be able to show the world, like by raising 650, that crypto can do actual good for regular people and create a touch point of positive thinking around Web3 from people who would like never ever be part of like crypto in any way. So I'll message you about that because it's something I've been thinking about the last couple of weeks. And I saw that Nouns ended up sponsoring someone's bid for the New York City Marathon too, and put Niraj's face on it.
Yeah, that was awesome. We love doing, outside of the box things. It's really interesting that Nouns was like part of the founding ethos was like proliferation of the meme. And so like, what does that really mean? And like, how do you really like achieve that? And like doing good stuff. Like we have people like getting funded to do like beach cleanups, and we have people getting funded to do like small town, like organizing small towns and like, doing dinners or like doing all sorts of different like community events, and like there's something just like really unique about being able to be regular people supporting regular people, and like
Totally.
no friction and no middleman necessary.
Yeah, Nouns has done it so well. Yeah, I'm definitely going to shoot you a note after this so we could discuss this, because I think that there's a really cool opportunity. I've even been having conversations, like the publicists are talking to journalists at like the New York Times and stuff,
Nice.
because I can tie the story of like the tenure to it, and being like a Pakistani American Muslim who ran that race, and like I wasn't a suspect as an attacker, I was a victim.
Right.
So like I had done a HuffPost piece that went viral around then for that specific reason. So with the tenure, I was
Awesome.
like, yo, I want to like, now I'm 34, or I'll be 35 when I run the race. It's very different running
Yeah,
this
you're gonna
race
have to
than.
start practicing. I'll cheer you on. I don't want to try to be right next to you.
Now I did a 9 mile run on Sunday, so training's going well,
Nice.
thankfully. But just like the idea of, I want to find a way to turn it into like a much bigger thing that we can create some buzz around as something bigger than myself. And like I literally have on my to-do list is like hit up Nouns.
Nice. Well, that's
Yeah,
that sounds really fun. If we don't mind, I do want to kind of touch back on something that you mentioned earlier,
yeah,
um, which is like how you define public goods and like open source software, because that's a big part of what this technology maybe allows. There's
hmm
something really special to me of like sometimes you'll be using an application and it's like, I love this, and then
yes,
it gets updated and you're like, I don't love this. And so like with something, and like Chris, maybe you could kind of chime in here too, like something like with like Farcaster, like you could almost say like, no, I'm just gonna use, me and my friends, we're just gonna use Farcaster like version 1.6 forever, and like
hmm
theoretically, uh, those features would work forever. Like they might not work, new features might not work, but like the features that were there would like still be accessible. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, that's right. But also, so I think that's true, right? So one, open source software powers the whole world. A lot of the when we're talking about public goods, yeah, a lot of it in like the greater nonprofit space. I think when you talk about public goods, it's public education, it's clean water, it's highways.
hmm
A lot of it when we talk about it in Web3 often boils down to open source software. I mean, it's not that doesn't encapsulate everything, but that is a lot of the stuff. And not only what you just said, but people can build their own. They can like fork the code and build their own clients on top of that. And so obviously you need a certain level of technical prowess to do that. But I think something like Twitter is a perfect example where there is so much energy around Twitter. And had that been a protocol, we could have had versions of the client that didn't have algorithms that prioritize outrage. And, we could, there's just a lot of
Could
different
you
things,
imagine? Oh,
right?
so much
What,
better.
what would the world be like if we weren't all outraged? And so I think that's like having open protocols and open source software, and then on our opinion, being able to fund people to build that stuff. Again, especially people who don't have business models. Yeah, it just feels like a net benefit to the world, right?
So, all right. So back to, let's get back to it. And as DAOs become more prevalent, I feel like there's still a lot of people that are skeptical about it. So let's just talk about the overall experience of being a part of a DAO, kind of what you love, pain points, governance, so people really get an idea of what it's like to be part of a DAO. So let's start with Azeem again. What's your favorite thing about DAOs? What do you think is the strongest point of a DAO?
I think the biggest thing has been how easily you can spin it up and just get going on working on things right away. I mean, like just a few moments ago, Josh was like, yo, we can spin up a DAO and we could figure out some cool stuff that you can do, as opposed to like figure out what type of corporate entity you want to spin up and then submit it and pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars in random fees for random things, pay a lawyer a bunch of money, figure out an EIN, set up a bank account. Wire transfers take forever. And so, as opposed to that, I love just how frictionless it is and how you can work with people anywhere because of that.
Absolutely. Like Joshua said, like skip the middleman, just, and like you said, get to work. Chris, what about pain points? You're in a bunch of DAOs, I know, but pain points within DAOs, Purple's still new. Are you experiencing pain points there yet? Or
Yeah, let me separate those. Let me separate those two things, and let me answer the last question also. So let me just answer that question of like what my favorite thing is about DAOs. And so at a very high level and very theoretically, I feel like we're speed running new ways to do human organization and governance, and we're doing it in a way where these things can fail and they have minimal societal impact. Whereas, like, very hard to change the way we vote, say, in your country's election, because the consequences of making a mistake in the voting mechanism is catastrophic. And so there's a very theoretical level where it's like we can do lots of experimentations with organizations and just how they're structured and how governance should work and what companies should look like even, which let me put a pin on that and say that that will also come to the problems. And the second part is, practically speaking, my favorite thing is like the people. It's like the network inside the DAO is actually, in my opinion, the reason to join a DAO. And so my first kind of real DAO was Shark DAO, and I've just made lifelong friends and met such good people, and they introduce you to other concepts and things they're interested in. And so, in all of the DAOs that I've had good experiences in, which is most of them, the good experiences really are like making friends, meeting other people, working on cool projects together, and getting those projects funded. Sometimes I have been awarded tokens from a DAO for the work I've done, but mostly it's just good to have someone like cover the cost of the thing you're trying to do. That being said, there are tons of problems with DAOs. They're all very different, so it's hard to like sort of generalize the problems of DAOs. There's no right way to do a DAO, and like I said, we're in this period of experimentation, so lots of things are happening. Often a lot of the challenges tend to be around voter participation, and so if you need 10% of your DAO base to pass a proposal, but only 5% of your DAO base are still active, it becomes very hard to do anything. And so proposals and engagement with your DAO, those are sort of like industry-wide issues. And then I'll come to Purple, which is just, we're just so new. It's like, on one hand, it's so easy to set up a DAO, and especially using Nouns Builder to do a Namish DAO. And then there's so much more work once you get started, because now you have new people joining the DAO every day. You're trying to organize them, get everyone aligned. Like in my case, I'm trying to not be the one who does everything. And so we have 2 proposals. I wrote them both. We have a 3rd proposal. I'm trying to encourage other people to write them. And so in the very early days, I think some of the challenges are just making sure everyone feels ownership of this thing, and that I'm not. It's funny. It's like on one hand, it's like I am the co-founder of Purple. On the other hand, I'm just now one of 13 token holders, and so I have no real special powers or abilities. And so just even propagating that within our own DAO and letting everyone know, like, hey, this isn't my thing. This is our thing. Is one of the things I've just been working a lot on in the last 2 weeks.
Joshua, do you want to add anything, either favorite things or pain points that you want to share? Like Chris said, it can change DAO to DAO, right? Everyone's different. So yeah, what have you experienced, good and bad?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. DAO is essentially a structure option for building a group of people to try to like make decisions and launch projects or do a variety of things. One of the things that I think is kind of interesting about the space is I've seen a lot of people come in, add value, and then leave and like be celebrated for that. So it's like there's like less expectation that like you're going to be full time at one of these things sometimes, so it like allows you to like spread your, like if you have a specific skill set, you can like find a few groups that can all use that and like be rewarded differently from them all. And I guess really emphasizing the relationship part is ultimately what it's all about. I think you're like looking for like-minded people who are trying to achieve the same goals.
Yeah, I like that you guys are talking a lot about the relationships and the people and the friends that you're making through these. And another thing you mentioned was people coming in, lending value, and then leaving. And I think that's something worth talking about too, is you don't need to stay in a DAO forever. If your heart's not in it, if it's not a right fit, you can walk away. And that takes me to my next point, is the engagement within these DAOs. And I feel like at Charmverse, that's what we hear a lot, is just there's not enough engagement. How do we get people to care about these votes and participate? So I guess across the board, I just want to know, how are you creating engagement? What's the engagement rate like within the DAOs? Is everyone kind of, I'm asking this because Charmverse launched recently our proposal builder, and the whole point is to get more of the community engaged in the creation of the proposal, whether it's suggested edits, comments, stuff like that. So, Azeem, why don't you tell us how that works over at Gitcoin?
Honestly, I think it ends up working similar to how it is in a lot of DAOs, is that engagement is definitely done by a smaller number of people. And one of the things that has bothered me, not only in Gitcoin, but just like basically in all DAOs, is that things either pass with like 99.9% of the votes, or like they get obliterated at 99.9% of a no. But one of the things I've been thinking a lot about when it comes to community, because I got onto Discord some years back, and what I observed as I had like joined servers, which, while maybe not like the best home for DAOs, and there will probably be another one soon, I always found them to sort of be like if Reddit and Slack had a baby, like subreddits and Slack had a baby, it became like a Discord. And as someone who's been a longtime Reddit user and for the most part a lurker, I don't think that there's anything that's too wrong, or at least it feels really natural that there are a lot of people who are there just like not to actively participate, but just to really enjoy actually, sitting and reading whatever's coming up and not even necessarily commenting on anything. And then the same way that in any of those subreddits that there are just like power users. And I think this applies in most communities as a whole, even going to like, I don't know, like the parents teacher union. Like there's like, I'm not a parent myself, but like there are some parents who are like 1,000,000% into it, and there are others who just like drop their kids off at school. And so I haven't seen this like necessarily as something that's a flaw of the system, but more so just something that's designed into us as people. Could totally be wrong, but at least as I've observed it and looked at it across like parallel places, it seems like there's nothing wrong, and that this is just like a natural human behavior or tendency.
I agree. And I know you touched on that in that article I mentioned earlier. I think, the idea of DAOs totally flattening our hierarchy is nearly impossible, because there are always leaders that rise to the top. It just seems innate in people. Joshua, what do you think? I mean, how is it working over at Nouns?
So, two things I think about that is, one thing that's like kind of interesting about this space is like you can give, I don't want to say power, but like you can give responsibility and take responsibility quickly, right? Like you can like take it away or give it, and like like the token could be the thing. So like I think about that, like how do you create like positions where people can be responsible for a lot and have like a big role, but the community can still decide like if you're not doing your role good anymore, to like quickly just like say like, all right, that's over. Like you're not speaking for the company anymore. Like the community has decided, or for the organization. But that's a little more like theoretical. In practical terms for Nouns, I think the issuance has been a huge benefit to participation, because it's just one new member of the DAO every day. So like, we actually have like a team of people who will like personally reach out and say like, hey, welcome to the DAO. Here's how things work. Here's what we're, if you're curious of like exploring things, here's where you should go. If you're looking for a certain type of activities, like maybe this person is helpful. And so that's allowed us to, I think, have a lot more engagement in voting. And so, we just passed 500 NFTs. I think we're somewhere around like 300 members. There's actually like really great tools out there to be able to tell this information. But like a proposal 167 to fund the Nouns Builder protocol passed with the 143 to 108 vote. So like there's like some contention and some like strong opinions on both sides happening in a lot of our proposals, and so it's been pretty interesting to see it kind of play out, and it like gets more and more difficult as you grow. So I can't imagine what like a 10K collection would be like.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, all DAOs are different, right? Azeem's saying proposals are getting like blown out of the water one way or the other, and you're having pretty close calls, it seems, in yours. Chris, so you said you've written up a couple proposals. No votes yet, though?
Yeah, no, we've passed 2 proposals, but they're, I mean, the first proposal passed when I think there was only 2 members, and it was very small to just change kind of our mission statement, and which just had it just had a bug in it. It wasn't like we dramatically changed it. It was just like, oh, there's some erroneous HTML in here. Let's vote to change that. The second one, which just passed yesterday, and we had like 50% engagement. But again, we're so small that 50% engagement is 5 or 6 people. Was for our first small grants distribution. So we're gonna offer 5 ETH in grants to people who already built great stuff on Farcaster. And but yeah, we're just like it's so funny. I was thinking about this earlier today, Joshua, and I'm happy you just said it. I was thinking about like, well, because our issuance is just once a day, I probably should have a team, or even at this point, it can be me, offer to meet everyone and just welcome them on like a video chat and generally get us all aligned. That being said,
you gotta
I gotta do
make
that
that
immediately.
known, and the auction price might go up.
Yeah, come meet Chris. I think we do need something like that. It is interesting to organize a bunch of people over the internet who we've never met or spoken, and lots of DAOs work that way. But given the once a day issuance makes it much easier. I'm still at the level where if a vote goes up, I can DM every single member of the DAO and let them know it's happening. That obviously
you also get like that opportunity to say like, if you want to support this mission, but you're not able to or willing to participate in the governance of this, you can delegate, right? And so,
yes.
And so if you have like a good portion of thoughtful delegation happening, then you have like thoughtful delegates who are like have a certain amount of people that they're like reaching out to and like making sure that they know what's happening with their votes, like, and you have like that's a different thing than like when I like sign up for ENS and it's just like delegate to me. I don't know any of these people.
Yeah, totally.
Chris, I'm curious to see how Purple grows and kind of the growing pains that come with it. We might need to have you on again in a couple months or so to see how everything's going.
For sure. I mean, it's all in the public. The auction is public. Our Discord is public. We actually have a Charmverse space that we make all of the pages public. And so, I know Nouns is like this too. And I basically took it from being inspired by them. But it's like, I strongly believe every DAO is different. So every DAO can have their own thing. But I strongly believe our DAO should be working in public. And so even if you can't afford a token or decide not to buy a token, you can still be in our community. You can still see what the token holders are talking about and decisions they made. And we've seen it already, like people who don't hold tokens, but I throw up a draft. Here's our public goods funding, our first funding round, and it's like non-DAO members have made edits or made suggestions or word changes, and so that's pretty great. And so I think there's just another. While I'm on this roll, there's another thing where it's like you actually don't know what it really means to be in a DAO. I mean, mostly it means you're a token holder and you get votes and you get governance. But one of the things I've been inspired by Nouns is you can be a part of the community. And so even though I don't hold a noun myself, it's like I very much feel a part of the Nouns community. And there's a certain power to that also, which is like this is not just all the financialization of governance. It's like you have a trusted set of people who get votes, and they help fill the treasury, and so they get those votes, but they're still listening to people who are outside the DAO, particularly because you work in public, and so people can see everything you're doing, and then so people have valid and smart opinions.
Well, I'm definitely trying to get down with the purple DAO, but I've been priced out.
So we are running short on time here, guys. But I want to hear each of you speak to how you think DAOs will change the future of work, or what the future of DAOs is. We definitely didn't get to all the questions I wanted to, but that's totally fine. Good conversation happening. So, Joshua, why don't you start? How will DAOs change the future of work, and what are the future of DAOs?
Well, sounds like a great question for Azeem.
Way to pass the buck.
Honestly, I see it as I don't see it as the only, but I see it as an alternative to the way that we run corporations at the moment. There are a lot of things that need to be sorted out, which I did mention in that article. Like, if you work in a DAO, like myself, like in many ways, like you're working for a startup, but there's no regular agreements. Like, are you a 1099 or a W-2? Like, do your agreements even hold weight in US jurisdictions or in other places if you end up being like taken advantage of in some capacity? Are there token vestings the way that there's equity vesting over time? Are we educating people about being part of like the tax system? I've seen so many people who have no idea how they're supposed to file their taxes, even when they're trying to do it, not even when they're just trying to like finesse the system. So I think there's a lot of issues at the moment, but I think as time goes on, it's likely with tools and just maturity in the space, it's going to become a serious alternative to being able to set up just like an organization that allows you to just get to it very quickly in the future. I know that basically every company in the last 2 years has been raising money for DAO tooling. Not that any of it has panned out yet, but at some point it will. Because at the moment there are aspects to doing DAOs that are difficult, and like I'm really looking forward to seeing that stuff mature, so that whether you're in India or Brazil or Nigeria, you can quickly spin up a company and be able to work with people fully remote, pseudo or fully anonymously, and be able to transact globally in this like really interesting frictionless way. I think there's also the potential for things to go the way that Balaji has talked about, where people like go move to the middle of nowhere and have like spun up a DAO that there's token gated some sort of token gated access to be part of the community, and they have their own way of handling their currency and handle everything like that. Like, it seems like a really far flung idea, but I actually do believe the possibility of it being real. And so I'd say we're at the really, really early stages, but there's a lot of super interesting potential for ways that this could end up going.
I'm so glad I passed that to you.
That was a really great answer, definitely.
Thank you, guys.
And I guess to like double down on that, and something kind of you said too, Chris, of like just like the ability to make these like decisions quicker, and like have like the tools that are being created just allow for new organizational decision making, and it is really interesting to see how they're used together. Like, I guess like Snapshot was like a big change for me, because it was like, and then like doing like on chain governance, like that was just like really interesting to see, like logging in and making your choice, and then everyone just like seeing like how people really feel in real time. There's been a lot of examples where we're back and forth, and then it's just like, we'll just put it on chain and see what people want to do. And sometimes the answer is no, and it's hard, but at least and that's like a new thing too in business. I think especially for creatives, when creatives are like pitching ideas and like this is what I want to do, this is how much it costs, and like, do you want to do it, yes or no? And then like it gets voted on, and you just like know the answer.
Well, like I said, guys, we didn't. You were just talking about governance, and I was hoping to get into some more governance questions, but we are running short on time, and I don't want to keep you all day. But I really appreciate all of you being here, and I feel like I myself and our listeners at least got a really good idea of what you guys are working on, what it feels like maybe to be in a DAO, and just, yeah, what it entails. So thanks again for being here. Chris, like I said, I look forward to hearing how Purple continues to shape up. Azeem, anyone that wants to check out that article, it's Pakistani Villages as DAOs and the Middle Ground Between Hierarchy and Monarchy. It's Q&A with Gitcoin's Azeem Khan. Check it out. It's a great read. And Joshua, I love what Nouns is doing. And please, if you can, go check out that video about the project he proposed, the glasses for kids, because that was, like I said, heartwarming, fantastic. And they're continuing to do really cool things. So thank you, guys. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having us. This was awesome.
Yeah, really fun.
Well, hopefully we can have you back and maybe dig into a whole governance thing, because I am also curious about the on-chain and off-chain and just voting processes. And if anyone here has not checked out Charmverse, please do so. From proposal building to voting, not on-chain yet, to task management, all sorts of stuff. Membership directory, one of our newest features we just launched. Super excited. Please go check out Charmverse. Give a follow to all of our guests today. They are fantastic and very knowledgeable about DAOs, so you'll want to be following them. So thanks everyone for coming. Check in next week. We'll be doing an interview about impact DAOs. So join us and we'll see you then. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone.